Welcome back, my friends, to yoga. Today with Tara Powers, our instructor.
Good morning.
Namaste.
Namaste. Good morning.
All right, Pete, take it away.
Oh my gosh. Well, this was really cool. I mean, I had watched you, doing yoga with Shawn and everything. And, a lot of people like myself kind of deal with issues of like limited mobility,
Right.
things like that. And I know that yoga is so beneficial in so many ways, like all the movements and everything. But you have some simple ways that we can modify some of the movements so everybody can take part.
Absolutely. So we're going to start actually on hands and knees. And one of the complicating factors in being on hands and knees is pressure points in the wrists. And a lot of people find that this is most uncomfortable for them. So come on down to the mat.
Okay.
So the first thing that we can do, especially, I know Pete, that you experience rheumatoid arthritis. So sometimes it can be hard for you to press your hands flat. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. So the first thing that you can do is take a strap and hold it so that you're coming onto your knuckles rather than pressing into the palms of your hands. So, so giving that a try. And Shawn, you're going to come onto your hands and knees, and we'll just show a basic modification for this. So separating the knees, hips width apart, feet as well.
That does make a difference.
Pressing firm into the tips of your fingers, Shawn, for you.
Okay.
So when we press into the tips of the fingers, the heels of the hands are alleviated. So we're not putting so much pressure right into the joint there. Okay. So this begins to help using little muscles, takes off of that pressure. How does that feel for you, Pete?
That's actually, I can do that.
So a further modification, if that's not even comfortable for you, is most yoga studios that you come to will have props like this available. So another modification that you can do is come onto your forearms with the block so that your hands have no pressure at all. So this way, it can help you even further.
Oh, yeah. Is that better?
So that there's no pressure on the palms of the hands at all. So the wrists are comfortable, the joints are comfortable. But starting there, beginning with pressing into the tips of the fingers is going to help. Okay. So hand and knees happens a lot in our yoga practice, right? We come into cat and cow. So basic cat and cow is that when you inhale, press your navel to the floor, tip your tailbone up, look up, inhale. This is cow pose. It's a very glamorous pose. Yes. And then exhale, you're going to tuck your tailbone under, tuck your chin to your chest, coming into a full cat stretch, like a Halloween
I do feel like a
rounding
side
your
of
back.
beef, so that's kind of makes sense.
Okay. That's the beginning. So from here, we're going to lift up into downward facing dog. So tuck your toes under, lift your knees, lift your hips, pressing back through your heels. So other complications arise.
I kind of slid there. It's,
yeah, that can be complicated with mats. So you're going to lift your hips up even higher, Pete. Good. So for this.
Sure I am.
Yeah. Well, when you're down on your forearms like that, it's going to limit the mobility in your hips. So separate your feet a little bit more, Shawn. Okay. Lift up in your hips even higher. Okay. Relax your head. Sure. This is downward facing dog. So if this becomes uncomfortable, you're going to want to step back a little bit further through your heels. Oh, my heels? Up higher through your hips. Yep. Separating your feet wider. So if it becomes even further uncomfortable to be on your wrists, you can separate your feet really wide. Separate your feet really wide. Walk your hands a little bit closer to your feet.
Am I supposed to sweat like this?
Yes, you are.
Oh, yeah, that feels
I'm
good.
just checking.
So downward facing dog modification. So Pete, you can come on down. That's going to be uncomfortable, especially in the core muscles when your lever is so low like that. It's
So just move backward, you're saying, closer to your feet.
Well, what happens then is you're not putting so much weight forward into the hands. You're not dumping tension into the shoulders and into the wrists. So now you're balancing more into the heels, lifting up in the hips. The hips are the key to downward facing dog. The higher you get them to go, the less weight you're going to feel in the front of the body.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow.
So
mine kind of sounded like a bowl of Rice Krispies, though. So but that was good, though, and I could definitely feel the blood rushing to my head.
Yeah, I can see it.
So downward facing dog is a modified inversion, and we like to create inversions so that we displace our blood flow. Because
so that
always, always our blood is flowing down, it's flowing down, it's flowing down, away from the brain. So we want to reoxygenate, and when we turn ourselves upside down, even a little bit like this, the blood flow comes back to the brain, intensifying it. So
I need to do that more.
Yeah, we need all the blood in our brains we can get.
Absolutely, we all do. And you smile more. It definitely increases endorphins to go even upside down a little bit.
What are some of the major physical issues, aside from, you said, the pressure points and stuff, what other injuries do you see, or knees are a big one for people?
Knees are a big complicating factor for people. So another pose that we come to a lot in yoga practice is Virasana. So Shawn, what you're sitting in right now is a yoga pose. This is Virasana.
I had no idea.
Hero's pose. So what we can do, though, is if your knees are really uncomfortable sitting there, or you have excess tightness in the fronts of the legs, you can always roll a blanket up and place it underneath your hamstrings.
Okay.
So that now you're not pressing so far back into the knees, not creating a deep stretch here in the fronts of the legs.
Oh, that's good.
Lifting up a little bit through the hips.
Wow.
That helps tremendously for people who have knee issues. Some other poses that you come into that are going to throw your weight over your knees, we can always turn onto our back. And we won't do those today, but if ever you find yourself in something called pigeon pose, which looks like this.
I don't think I ever want to be in that pose.
You love this. I promise you, this pose is fantastic.
Really?
It feels really
It looks
good.
like it'd be like a great stretch.
It puts a lot of pressure on the knee. So the first thing that you would want to do is angle your foot backwards so that the knee isn't at such an acute angle. You draw back a little bit into it. If that's still uncomfortable and you have hip tightness, you'd lay on your back, cross your legs like this, and draw your knees into
do
the
it that
chest.
way.
Same way.
So now the hip is all opening up, you're getting a little bit of stretch in the knee, but there's none of that excess pressure on it. So we're not creating uncomfortable compression.
Is this what they call restorative yoga?
Some of it is,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Downward facing dog is not typically a restorative pose. You use a lot of muscle in downward facing dog to hold yourself upright like that. Hero's pose is a restorative type pose.
Okay.
Because it's more relaxing, it's more rejuvenating. Cat and cow can be a restorative type pose, even though there's movement there. It's really good for the lower back too.
What a great idea. I guess you certainly would want to talk to a professional.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
not just
That's
start
the key
doing
thing.
these things or you'll end up like him right now, leaning on a block.
You will wind up
These
like
are
that a
great
little
for
bit,
this
though.
too.
There you go. Thank you so much, Tara.
Always.
Namaste.
Thank you guys for having me.
I love it.